Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to IVMF monthly webinar series. We apologize for the delay today. We had some technical difficulties. We were able to overcome them. Thank you for your patience. My name is Mirza Tikic. I'm joined here today by Dave Ribble. We're going to talk about the art of networking, becoming a conscientious connector, the value in adding value. So Dave Ribble has spent most of his career helping people and companies stand out from their competition. Dave and his wife and partner Gay have served the needs of most every type and size of industry through their promotional marketing company called Standout Marketing Strategies. From Warner Brothers, Universal, Metal, to small and medium-sized businesses who are, like all of us, trying to carve out more market share, the company figures out what is needed to ensure their clients get noticed. Dave is putting together a training course on the art of networking and is writing a book about networking and connecting, as well as several others. Today's presentation is titled Becoming a Conscientious Connector, the Value in Adding Value. Please welcome Dave Ribble from Standout Marketing Strategies. Thank you.
Thank you, Mirza. Can everybody hear me okay? Okay. Just wanted to thank you again for the opportunity to be a part of this. I want to thank everybody that's online that has served our country. I sincerely appreciate the opportunity to even share some information with you today, and I apologize for the delay that we had in the mechanical stuff that goes on sometimes with these things. On being a conscientious connector, the value of adding value, that's the name of the title of things. I'm going to just move through these really quickly. Dave and Gay Ribble, that's my wife and business partner and much better half, frankly. We've been in business for over 30 years. Our industries, as you can see, are entertainment, insurance, construction, toy manufacturers, that would be companies like Mattel, finance, restaurants, retail, law. We've done just about every kind of work you can think of in the promotional marketing sense with all of these different companies. And it has gone from, Warner Brothers and Universal right down to a one-person company that wanted to start their own new law firm. And what we do with that process each and every time we go in to talk to somebody is we try to find out as much as we can about what it is that is going to differentiate them from everybody else that they compete with. It's pretty basic, but I ask a ton of questions, because the more I can understand exactly what they are about, who they are, what their product and service is, the better I can get some sort of an understanding or a feeling for how we are going to be able to differentiate them from everybody else. And in that process, there's all kinds of good stuff that comes out of that. We are called Standout Marketing Strategies, and our slogan is simply, if you don't stand out, how will they know you're there? And that's exactly how we approach everything. But when we're talking about conscientious connecting, there is a difference that I'm going to be going over with you. And the greatest differentiator on the planet is the differentiation that is yours when you can become a conscientious connector. Okay? So that's the stuff we're going to be talking about today. It's interesting that when we look at these slides and things, we're talking about, Mirza, can you see that okay?
Yes, I can see we're all pretty much looking for the same things.
Great. Okay, now it's working okay. What we find is that everybody's pretty much looking for the same things, the right connections to advance our careers, a happy and rewarding life, and to make good things happen for ourselves and our families and our companies. I mean, whether I go into Warner Brothers and Universal or I walk down the street to somebody that's only got 10 people that work for them, we're all looking for the same thing. We're all looking for that kind of happiness and moving our careers along and just enjoying life if we can. So I'm going to tell you a little bit of a story that I call One Day on the Way to the Chamber Breakfast. Years ago I was on the board of directors. I found myself on the board of directors for 2 chambers of commerce at the same time. I highly recommend you never do that. But if you can get on the board of one chamber, that's fabulous. Try to do that if you can, and try to volunteer for some committees and things, because it's always a good idea to do that. But here I was, Gay and I had a zillion things on our plate that Tuesday morning when I knew I had to get in the car and go to this chamber, because when you're on the board of directors, you're expected to do that. So I headed over to the West Valley Warner Center Chamber of Commerce. Diana Williams is the CEO and director of that, and does an amazing job. Same thing with the Calabasas Chamber with Bridget Carl. She's the president and CEO there, and I was on the board there for a while. But during this time, this particular morning, I didn't really particularly want to go to this chamber breakfast. I wanted to stay home. I wanted to go ahead and dig into the things that we had going, projects and deadlines and callbacks on clients and callbacks on suppliers and stuff. So as I got out of my car, there was something that kind of whispered in my ear, and for the first time, it said to me, when you go in this morning to say hello to everybody, leave your business cards in your pocket. Don't use them if you don't have to, and just see how many other people you can help. And I thought that was kind of an odd thing to do, but I actually decided I would just try it because I was trying to make my morning the best morning I could, and I decided that I would just do that. So I went in, said hello to everybody, paid my 20 bucks, put my little temporary name badge on, walked in, and I was there on purpose about 30 minutes before the thing started because I always like to do that, and I highly recommend that you should too. And what I did was I turned around, instead of talking to people I already knew, I turned around and started looking for people that I didn't know in the room. And I walked up to the first one and I said, "Hi, I'm Dave. I'm on the board of directors here for the West Valley Warner Center Chamber of Commerce. Really glad you're here. Tell me what your name is and what you do, and tell me, most importantly, who you're looking for." And the guy, I swear, he kind of stepped back like I was, some sort of an alien, because nobody ever does that. And he said, "Well, my name's John. I'm a handyman. I'm looking for, I'd like to talk to a realtor." And I turned around, I found a realtor that was engaged in some sort of non-meaning conversation with one of his friends, and I marched John right on over there, and I introduced the two of them. They kind of looked at me kind of strange, and I just kind of said, "Well, here you go." I walked away, and I went and looked for somebody else. So I did that actually 5 times before Diana Williams actually said it's time for us to fill our plates, sit down at the table, and start the program. So I sat there and listened to the guest speaker, and I sat there and listened to everything else that was going on. And then near the end of it, if they have any time at all, they usually have people stand up and do testimonials. And what I didn't expect and what I didn't realize at the time was that there were 5 people that came to that thing this morning who knew no one, and I walked them right into the people that they wanted to meet. And it was powerful. It was the most amazing thing I had ever seen happen, and it happened because of the way my mindset was. So it taught me some things about how this thing really should work. Here's conventional connecting. You go to a networking opportunity event, you see your buddies, and as soon as you arrive, you sit with them. You collect the business cards from anyone you don't know, only if they make the first approach and they ask you for yours. You try to get your texting done while the speaker is talking to save time. Isn't that terrible? You wait to see if you want anything before from the drawing before you conveniently slip out of the way and head back, because you justify this because you are, after all, in the hunt for more connections. Isn't that pathetic? But that's what we do, and that's what I used to do. Let's say that you're at a typical sales meeting. I used to work for a company that was based in Chicago. We had these gargantuan national sales meetings. We would all fly into Chicago in January, coldest place on earth by the water right there, I think, in January. And we would have these sales meetings, and it always intrigued me that we would see people from accounting and purchasing and human resources and customer service and all of the rest, and they would be considered non-sales support staff. And so they would bring them in to the national sales meeting. They would give them each about 10 minutes to say hello to the group and talk about accounting and purchasing and human resources and customer service and so on. And then they would be summarily dismissed to go back to the office so that everybody else could have the sales part of the sales meeting. And I thought, that's really interesting. And I'd hear things like, well, sales and marketing are the only ones who really know how to network. And I'd hear things like, well, it's just how things have always been done, so don't question it. And I question everything. And this graphic really talks to me, because it's a guy busting out the door because he can't talk right now. He's on his way to the networking event to see his buddies. And what I think it really should look like is this. I'll be back after the networking opportunity. I'm on my way to see how many people I can help. You see the difference? Here's a connecting versus conscientiously connecting. Connecting people because you know there is a synergistic value available for the parties you involve, regardless of whether you benefit directly from doing so or not. That's what conscientiously connecting people can be. Another way to say it is, here's the difference. Conscientious connecting is when the number of connections you have that can help others be successful is as important to you as your concern for yourself. Now, there may be some people out there right now that are saying, yeah, I can't do that. Man, I can't worry about everybody else. I've got to worry about myself. Well, I'm telling you right now, proof positive, there is more going on that can help you this way than there will ever be the other way. I'm going to prove it to you. Now, there are conventional methods of connecting. There's a lot of networking organizations out there, and I'm just going to list a few. LaTip and BNI and Provisors, all of those are fabulous, fabulous places to bring people together. And that's, after all, that's what that's for. But here's the other thing I want you to understand. Joining a chamber or any other organization does not guarantee that you will have more than just an awareness that now people know that you have a business. That's all it's supposed to be. That's all it's supposed to do. What you do with that membership will determine the success in that organization. Pure and simple. Okay, here's another way to say it, and I've talked to Diana Williams and Bridget about this and many other people. John Wilson, an old friend of mine, said this one time. He said, it's the job of the networking organization to provide the arena. It's your job to bring the game. Now, not everyone you meet is going to be looking to help you at all. You have to understand that. They're going to absolutely be interested in you helping them, that's for sure. But ironically, the people out there are also looking for you. You'd be surprised how many people are. Now, some of the greatest connections might hide right in plain sight. We just don't explore the possibilities that are sometimes right in front of us. I'll give you an example of this. Paul Brodsky is my accountant. He's my CPA. I've had him as my CPA in our company's CPA for over 20 years probably. Does he know anybody? If you have somebody in your organization that went to accounting school that became a CPA, then how many other people does that accountant that you know also work for? Because these people might be cafe owners, they might be lawyers, they might be anybody, okay? And the benefit of this particular slide is that even if you took just one person that you were introduced to by your accountant named James, he also knows Harold, who's an estate attorney. And oh, by the way, what does Kenny do? Oh, he happens to be a banker. What about Mary? Well, she happens to be an internet expert. Charles and Grace from the first graph are already people you know. But you see how this thing starts to build? It really does. And it takes a village, and whether you're in sales or you're in accounting or whether or not you're in purchasing or whether you are driving a truck or whether or not you're setting up a warehouse or whether or not you're starting your business for the first time, please take into account and consideration the fact that everybody knows people. And if you can tap into that, you will be so much further down the road. I just can't tell you how important this really is. No matter what your position in the company, you have value and you need to learn how to bring it. You can create value every day. You can start to keep notes. You can interview people. You can find out what else you can do to help the company. Make yourself more valuable. Now, some people will take that attitude and they'll say, well, you know, Dave, I can't really do that. I just have to worry about keeping my own job. I can't really worry about whether or not I'm going to be able to help the company. I only have so many hours. I got kids to feed, and I got other kinds of things. I have a second job. I have this and that and everything else. Please consider it. Please entertain me for a minute and just understand that if you can start to keep notes and you can start to open your ears a little bit and you start to read the paper and you start to find out about your industry, whether or not the person you're working for right now appreciates what you're doing, look how much smarter you're going to be about the industry and look how much more valuable you're going to be to somebody else. That's a good idea, don't you think? Now, I ran across a book a couple of years ago, and I love this guy. He is a professor at Wharton, and he has a book called Give and Take. Why helping others drive our success? Okay. Here's what he found out and what he figured out. The Give and Take is actually a book to prove out what his theory was. And his theory is that there are three kinds of people in the world. There are takers, matchers, and givers. Takers are people who pretty much will take everything they can from you, your information, your contacts, anything they can get their hands on that you would be willing to give them. They will take from you and take from you and take from you until there's nothing left to take. After they've determined that there's nothing left to take, they will summarily pretty much dismiss you. There are matchers. Matchers are people who seem to be kind of like givers. And the matchers, according to Adam Grant, are people who will help you as long as they feel that you are reciprocally helping them at least as much as they helped you or more. And if they can do that, then they'll continue to help you until a point where they feel that they're not getting more from you than they're giving you. They're not getting as much back, and then they will pretty much dismiss you as well. Givers, as Adam Grant describes it, are people who will go ahead and just go out of their way to try to find a way to help you, and they won't even think about any kind of reciprocal thing at all. They're just going to give you, and they're going to move on. And what he found out in this Give and Take book, and what the research showed, is that givers are more successful. There's another favorite person of my experience, Harvey McKay. Harvey McKay was an envelope salesman in Minnesota, and envelope sales in Minnesota is not easy. Margins are tiny, tiny, tiny. He had to figure out another way to, as it says on the bottom of the book there, outsell, outmanage, outmotivate, and outnegotiate competition. And the way he did it was he wrote down everything he could learn about the person he was calling on. He would track them, and he'd find out who that they needed to meet. He would track who and what that particular company needed. And no matter what your position is, you can do this too, because if you start thinking this way, you can treat your career as a real career. Now, if you talk about the word career, most people think, well, this is the career I had at XYZ company, and I spent 35 years there. Well, if you're just starting out in your business, and you have another business 2 weeks from now or 2 years from now, all of that, the sum total of everything that you are doing and experiencing and trying and failing and succeeding at is your career. That's it. Wherever you work right now is part of the career you had, okay? So once you have that mindset and you start doing it that way, then everything changes in how you approach everything every day out there in the business world. And I want you to start thinking that way. Remember this. Your business will be more successful by the relationships with other people. Your career is going to be more successful with the relationships with other people. So the common denominator in all this long term is, what kind of relationships will you have with other people? If you can help them first, I promise you it'll pay off. Now, does making connections on the web count as good ways to connect with people? Absolutely. It's going to give you introductions. It's going to give you brand awareness. But I don't want you to stop there. Don't just rely on the web. Don't just rely on leads going out in mass mailings. Don't do that. Keep moving on this thing. There's another fabulous book called Start With Why by Simon Sinek, and here's what he said about technology. He said it's wonderful for making connections, it's wonderful for exchanging information, it's amazing for driving transactions, and it's amazing for performing transactions faster and faster than ever before. But technology is terrible for creating human relationships. So here are 7 things I'd like for you to think about. Number 1, understand that this is a payoff when you have this conscientious mindset. Understand that this is a payoff for the many, to help the many. When you become a conscientious observer, you will rethink how powerful your influence is and can be with the right attitude. Number 3, try to become a friendly detective, a keeper of notes, if you will. Just start writing things down and paying more attention wherever you are. 4, stretch your possibility muscles. What I mean by that is that if you can think outside the box, even though no one told you you should be doing that because it's not your job, if you can start stretching your possibility muscles, you don't know what you're going to come up with. and you don't know who you're going to be having coffee with who might have an idea or might have a connection to something else that could help the company that you work for or the company you're starting yourself. Number 5, get permission. What I mean by that is that when you decide you're going to connect 2 people as a conscientious connector, you're going to connect with both of them. I want you to go to both of them first, and I want you to get their permission. And there's a couple of reasons for that. One reason is I want you to absolutely put them on notice that you're doing this. Okay, that's very important for them to do that and to know that. Secondly, you're going to get permission from both of them because they are going to step it up a little bit and understand that you're not messing around and you don't just do this for anybody. And then I want you to expect professionalism. I want them to show up, respond to the email if that's how you hand people off, or a phone call, or meeting them all for coffee. Whatever you decide is the best way to do that, fine, but expect professionalism. If you're going to go out of your way and do this for somebody, expect professionalism. When I connect with people, I tell them I will be looking for an email that confirms that you guys got together, and they'll give it to you. Then I want you to expand your influence. I want you to start thinking more all the time with what other people you can help, what other people you can provide benefit to, whatever other kinds of opportunities. Expand that influence, because every time you do that, you're adding value. Now, I want you to just think about it one more time here. How to change what's in it for me, W-I-I-F-M, what's in it for me, to what could be the greater good here? What could be the greater good of this connection? If you think about it that way, then everything starts to make even more sense on the 7 that I just gave you. Okay? This is Standout Marketing Strategies. I hope that this information has been valuable to you. My name is Dave Ribble. This has been a privilege for me. If you need to email me for anything, there it is, Dave at Standout Marketing. And if you want to see me out there on the web, I'd encourage you to go to daveribble.com/SMS, which stands for Standout Marketing Strategies. Okay, Jim, Mirza, that's all I got.
Dave, thank you very much. Let's just see if there's any questions. Anybody in the audience has questions at Google Plus or YouTube. Let's give them a couple of minutes. This was very helpful, Dave. Thanks for sharing your experiences and your knowledge with us. I could see myself being more the giver, I hope, because I use the same strategies when I work with entrepreneurs to connect them kind of with the resources they need.
Well, I highly recommend that you get the book. It's it's a pretty amazing book.
No, and there's this old saying, what makes people happy is helping others, right? So if you can connect people, people also know how to appreciate. The example you gave in the beginning with the handyman and the realtor, right? So he made you feel great, but also they appreciated. And
the other part to that breakfast story that I didn't put in there, but it's interesting. At the end of the thing, they have time for testimonials, and I didn't know that 5 people were going to all stand up and say Dave Ribble is the best connector I've ever met, and all I did was I just hooked them up, you know. But my social value went right through the roof, and I didn't even think about that.
Usually common sense is not that common, right? So I've seen it many times. People go there, you're right, just they hang out with the best part. They're comfortable, so that's what they do. They go in the comfort zone, and actually by being in the comfort zone, they're not being entrepreneurial, and it is what makes entrepreneurs different, that they're challenging themselves to get outside the box, outside the comfort zone, and pursue opportunities, even if it means talking to strangers. So.
Yeah, I absolutely love teaching this. I love waking people up to a greater good, and to the opportunity for them to hopefully see that approaching everything this way is going to get them so many more rewards that are lifetime rewards. I mean, I have so many professional friends now that you know, I know that my reputation is intact, and I know that if they can recommend me, they will. And part of the reason that I don't even think about it anymore is because it's just there. You know, you don't even think about it anymore.
Excellent, Dave. Thank you very much, everybody. If you have any questions for Dave later on, please email him at Dave at standout-marketing.com. You can see it also on the screen here. Thank you very much for tuning in. We look forward to see you in the next month. Thank you, and keep entrepreneuring. Have a good day.
All right, bye-bye.
Thanks, Jim and Dave.
Thanks, Jim.